Good morning, everyone. Lots going on, and regular politics is kind of suspended at this point in time. As I mentioned on the 13th, although perhaps not in depth enough, because COVID-19 is taking up a lot of air right now, right? Parliament is suspended, so the House of Commons is not in session. The Senate is not in session. Nothing is happening, essentially. Unless the emergency measures need to be passed, emergency aid packages, and every other day, I mean, sometimes twice a day, Justin Trudeau's in front of the cameras announcing more aid packages, more money, more whatever to fight this thing, to keep people home, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is what it is. But the regular legislative stuff is not happening. So that's something to note, right? Another big thing yesterday, Canada-US border temporarily closing to non-essential traffic to slow COVID-19. Canada and the United States have agreed to restrict non-essential travel across the border as both countries try to slow the spread of novel coronavirus, but they insist key supplies will still flow between the two nations. U.S. President Donald Trump first tweeted the news Wednesday morning, soon after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau held a news conference to announce that travelers will no longer be able to cross the border for recreational and tourism purposes. These measures will last in place as long as we feel they need to last, he told reporters from outside his home in Rideau Cottage on the grounds of Rideau Hall in Ottawa, where he's in self-isolation. In both our countries, we're encouraging people to stay home. We're telling citizens not to visit the neighborhoods if they or their neighbors if they don't absolutely have to. Canadian citizens will be able to get home, although the government says travelers presenting symptoms won't be able to board flights. So here's Trudeau addressing reporters. 22 hours ago, he runs back in to get his coat, I think. And whatever. I mean, everybody's human, and people were criticizing him for that, and they said, "Oh, he's so terrible." And there's a lot to criticize Justin Trudeau for, but most Canadians have underestimated how cold it is in March when you look outside and see the sun and you're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. And then you get out there and you're like, oh my God, it's freezing. I should have put my toque on. So, I mean, I'll forgive the Prime Minister this for getting his coat. But there are things that I won't forgive him for, right? There are other good reasons, right? Don't get caught up in ridiculous, silly things. There are other good reasons to dislike him. This is the Fox News alert, and this was the first thing. This is how most Canadians learned about the border closing, and then Justin Trudeau came on too, so here it is.
On Twitter, a temporary closing of the northern border to all non-essential traffic. The president saying this is being done by mutual consent with the Canadian government, temporarily closing our northern border with Canada to non-essential traffic. He added that trade will not be impacted, but obviously a lot of people will be watching that closely today.
So, and something, that's going to play something. Something I wanted to mention is that yesterday in the comments section, people were saying, because I speculated that Trudeau was going to close the border and Trump intervened and said, oh, we don't want to look bad. I want to announce it, whatever. And some people were suggesting that it was the other way around. Trump was going to close the border and waited on Trudeau and whatever. I mean, however it happens, I think the two countries are obviously communicating, obviously talking about the best way to handle this. And I don't know the best way, right? Like, who knows what the best way is? Obviously, the Wuhan lockdown for 2 months, which is still not lifted. So if you're thinking about how our own lockdown is going to end, consider that Wuhan took 2 months to be sure, and they're still not done yet, right? So they're still on lockdown. So consider it, right? But nobody's got a plan of, oh yeah, this is definitely how you fight this. This is how you win this, right? So at this point in time, I mean, it's semantics. Whoever said to whoever, should we talk to the United States first? Somebody probably said, yes, we definitely should, right? So, I mean, however it happened, it happened. And both countries were mutual in their agreements. And I think something of a similar nature is happening in Mexico as well. So, I mean, it's interesting, unprecedented. Again, you don't shut down the economy for nothing, right? Like, you really don't. I read reports of the modeling that was done and shown to the leaders, Mr. Boris Johnson and Donald Trump and Trudeau and all the people who were talking about it, and if they did nothing, and then if they did a little bit, and then if they did what we're doing, and essentially if they did nothing, the death would be very severe. And Trump himself said that yesterday. He said, if we do nothing, it'll be a lot of death, so much death, in his typical Trump way. So I mean, it's interesting, right? But the stock markets are being routed absolutely. It's slaughter out there. If you've got stocks in mutual funds, or if you've got stocks, just stock holdings or anything to that effect, you're getting wiped out. a lot of the earnings recently are pretty much gone. Here, this is the TSX loses another 8% as Canadian oil prices fall to lowest level on record. And I mean, Canadian oil is like $10 a barrel. $10 is the break-even point, right? Like without that level of demand for oil, there's no point in even running it. And so with the Canadian oil collapsing and with just oil generally collapsing, have you seen the price of oil at the gas station, right? It was 76.9 or something like that. I was a young lad the last time I saw that. I think I was in my 20s. But really, it's been a while. So it's very interesting to watch this. I'll tell you another story. I have Visa in stock holdings, and I bought in around 189. Okay, 189 I bought in. I got just a couple. I had a little bit of extra money sitting around to buy stocks, specifically to buy stocks. I thought, I'll play in the market a little bit. And I was pretending to buy stocks, like you pretend buy stocks and then you watch them go up and it's just to see, right? It's like playing poker with fake money, like, right? So I was doing that for a little while, and then I asked my friend, he said, buy Visa. So I bought in at 189 and I watched it go all the way up to 210. And here it says 211, I think, or 213, but I don't remember seeing 213. I remember seeing 210. And at 210, I thought, man, that's a pretty good little return. That's a nice little percentage there. Not very long holding, right? Because I just bought it in like October or something like that, whatever it was. Or maybe even not October, like January. Yeah, I guess January. So it was a nice little return. And then it's all the way down. Now I'm just holding it for masochistic purposes. Like, it's lost a lot of value, right? That's a lot of value in a short period of time, right? That's March. That's a rough March for the stock market. How are those brackets doing? Ooh, right. Sorry. Getting into coronavirus. So here is, I've been talking about this, and Donald Trump has been talking about this too. So the coordinated push to not call this the Chinese virus has got Donald Trump calling it the Chinese virus. So here we go. Why do you call it a Chinese virus, sir? And I love how breathlessly incredulous she is. She's like, there are people who are experiencing biases, sir. Biases.
Reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. Yeah, please, John. Please. I have great love for all of the people from our country, but as you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen, not as long as I'm president. It comes from China. John, please.
Okay.
It comes from China. Donald Trump, man, he's an unusual president, but you cannot look away, and he's not wrong. And here is USA News, and this happened less than a week ago. China government spokesman says U.S. military may have brought virus to China. This is what sparked Donald Trump's awful, awful statements that the virus came from China. Truthful, awful statements. How dare he speak the truth? That evil, evil Donald Trump. Right? I mean, it's funny because it's just a propaganda campaign, right? Like, saying something that's true. Ebola is named after a river because it was, I read the story of Ebola. I thought it was named after a town. It's not a river. But fundamentally, like, how these things get their names it's usually regional, and nobody's trying to blame China for the virus, but it originated in China. So, I mean, that's something to note, right? And I think that it's funny that the focus is on racism. The focus is it's like, don't call it a Chinese virus. You can call it the Italian virus if you want to, or the South Korean virus. That's okay. No problems there. If you do that, no problems. But if you call it the China virus, everybody is going to lose their mind, right? It's kind of interesting. Here's I often talk about how this is airborne. Here's March 16th, and this is CNBC saying the WHO considers airborne precautions for medical staff after study shows coronavirus can survive in the air, and it's. Again, Dr. John Campbell was saying that aerosolization and droplets, which we know it's spread in droplets when you sneeze and cough, right? And if you get it on your hands and then get it on your keyboard, and somebody comes and touches your keyboard and put it right, that's virus spreading. But the droplets and then aerosolization is on a scale. So some aerosolized viruses can survive tens of yards, apparently, in the air, aerosolized, and other viruses can survive like going down a hall, like in an HVAC recirculation. So, and this one is on that spectrum, right? It doesn't, I don't know. That's just, I'm retelling you what I've heard. Okay. Here are the numbers for coronavirus in Canada, mapped handily if you're interested in that kind of thing. I am interested in this kind of thing. I was looking for this, and I'm glad that there's an official, or at least somebody tracking this. I wish that there were breakouts for provinces, right? I wish there were breakouts for Ontario versus BC versus Alberta and Quebec, but oh, maybe there is here. I haven't played with this. Oh, there is. Oh, look at that. I don't know if there's charts, but there is. So, okay, good. British Columbia has 231, Ontario 214, Alberta 119. So I think each one of these are separate clusters because, I mean, the British Columbia cluster doesn't have a lot of commonality with the Ontario cluster. There's going to be a lot of differences. There's not going to be a lot of cross-contamination, right? So where we see clusters kind of take off in other countries, like if the number here was in Italy or Spain, that looks really different than in Canada, where in Canada we've got 3 different small clusters and they're all going to take off similarly, right? And we've got 2 weeks of growth, but we stopped it, hopefully, maybe, soon enough that we don't see that exponential curve. Maybe. Who knows? Here's, I didn't know that they had that on that website because I only wanted, my friend was looking to map the speed at which the contagion was happening, USA versus Italy versus Canada, up to the numbers we have. And so he was looking for this. So I found this for him. And anyway, I was building the video while I was doing that. So there's the Ontario numbers as of 5:30 on the 18th. Today is the 19th. And 25 new cases. That's part of the reason why I wish we had a breakout like this for Ontario, to see the daily numbers similar to how the daily numbers are here. And there used to be that blue line, because of the value. Similar to how the daily numbers are here, right? Like the new cases versus the cumulative cases. I wish there was that for Ontario. So, but hopers and dreamers, right? Put it out there. If anybody can create one, that would be awesome. Okay, here's global news saying Toronto police civilian tests positive for COVID-19. So Toronto police employs civilians to man desks and do like payroll and all sorts of other stuff. There's a whole civilian arm to most police services in Canada, and obviously they're going to be of a higher risk because they're going to be exposed to the public coming to get like records and police checks and all that kind of stuff. You know, they're exposed to the public. So all Toronto stations are closing to the public. I'm not going to read through this, but if you want to check that out, it's just an interesting note. Here is the Director of Office of Emergency Management for Toronto fired in the midst of COVID-19 outbreak, and that was yesterday at 2:24 p.m. If you hadn't heard, what a good time to fire somebody. I mean, how bad of a job must they have been doing? Pretty bad, I would imagine. Here's the Toronto Star. I've been saying privately to friends, I think, that this is a slow rollout. The 2 weeks is just the beginning, like the 2 weeks added to March break. Jason Kenney said, in order to do a school closure, it's going to have to be to September. And I think that he's probably right and potentially underestimating this. But here's the Toronto Star talking about months of school closures, social distancing needed to fight pandemic. Here's the whole article. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but basically it's talking about how long the incubation period is, how contagious it is, and if we don't find a vaccine in the time that we take to stamp this out, that it will just come back and we'll have to do all of this again. So yeah, I mean, we're in a bit of a soft shutdown with a long period to wait to see if we win. And we don't know until a new cluster pops up, and a new cluster takes a really long time to get going. Like, had we started closing schools on the 24th of February, there would have been a lot of people who didn't understand why and what the danger is. There are a lot of people now who don't understand why and what the danger is, even though the danger is very, very clear and present in Italy and other places around the world. And those places, I mean, we're still landing flights with Canadian citizens from areas that have infections. So in addition to introducing people who've potentially been exposed in their home country, we're not we're not actively quarantining people. We're saying self-quarantine, if you think about it, and then discharging them into the airport. It just seems insane. So there's a lot more to unfold in this story. There's a lot more to come. There's going to be the further impact of the supply chain, like the retail supply chain shut down, basically, because China is shut down. There's not much coming out of China at this point in time. There's going to be interesting challenges with spinning up a new factory, because how do you do that when everybody has to stay home? I mean, there's going to be people going stir crazy, but really, I mean, there are real challenges here. There's going to be it'll be interesting to see if we come up with modern solutions, or if we just fall back into, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the options are. Who knows? Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll keep watching this and keep telling you what I think. Check out CanadaPoly.com, CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Wash your hands.